notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
I don't want you to write. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the streets. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad.
The whole world gone crazy! Am I the only one around here who gives a shit about the rules?
You have the luxury of not knowing what I know.
I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
All right, so here we are live again. It's just me today. If you're out there or you catch this later on, I would love to have you put in your comments, any feedback you might have based on what I cover here. But just some stuff that's coming up in this as this Ukrainian situation continues to develop. Like, I get more and more concerned about the way the narrative is going, the fact that the narrative is not necessarily true, and the fact that all the false narrative seems to be going in one way. Now, I'm sure that there's plenty of fake information coming from the other side. I just hear it, obviously, because I'm in the West, I hear all of the stuff from the West. So I want to just make sure everybody understands, from the channel perspective and what we would like from the people who follow and subscribe across the platforms is to continue to provide information. So perfect example of this, is when I had put the video out on the Russian tank. People from groups and comments are the ones who turned me on to other facts that got me researching other stuff and eventually got me to put up another video to have that conversation, which was different even than what they gave me. So like, I took it to another level because I researched it even more than they did, and then added some more questions. So but that's good though, because then you'll hear those extra questions and maybe you got answers, maybe you don't, and we have that back and forth, right? So before we get started here, just make sure you subscribe, follow, do whatever. Force a habit. I'm like pointing. This is live. There's nothing popping up on the screen. So just follow, subscribe. We're only on YouTube and Facebook right now, MeWe and Rumble. Rumble has a live, but they make you pay for it, and I'm not making money on this channel, so we won't be paying for live streams. So, but anyway, I've been watching different stuff on this topic of Ukraine, and really the whole Russian tank thing sent me down some more research as to what the narrative I had always believed was. And I had my position already on the Russia-Ukraine relationship, the history on it, etc. I did at one point in time feel that Russia, did want to just take over Ukraine and make them a part of Mother Russia and bring back the Soviet Union and that sort of thing. But as I'm watching this particular conflict work out, it's making me a little bit more cautious. And I see that Sean Kennedy here saying, what if the war is a diversion to get all the info on why all the elite's kids are on the boards and help break up the corruption? Okay, I was waiting for that last word. So yeah, I mean, look, there's a million. The way the propaganda is going out now, it's crazy because everything can be a diversion, right? Everything can be a psych op or some kind of and I kind of, since the COVID breakout, I don't dispel anything in the world of conspiracy, and I absolutely believe there are conspiracy theories and there are conspiracy facts, and no matter which one it is, if it comes to my attention and there's any shred, and it's not just totally psycho, there's any shred of possibility to it, chances are I'm going to look into it. And that's where I've come, through this whole COVID crisis. I've always questioned everything, but there were certain things I believe in. I don't really believe in much anymore. But now so this woman, there's a parliament, a woman from the Ukrainian parliament. I don't know if everybody has seen the video of that, but she actually, because now I'm getting into this, I'm reading Glenn Beck's Great Reset. book and really starting to dig in and learn a little bit more about this Great Reset and the World Economic Forum and this Strauss guy and the rest of these clowns, and that they really believe this stuff and that they're public about it. And I'm, once you start learning about it, it's like the Marxist thing. Like once you see, you can't unsee. And you start seeing it, and you start realizing, you see the symbols, you see the stuff they do, that kind of thing. Whereas before you were oblivious to it. It's the same thing going on here with this Ukrainian situation. All right. So I'm not a believer and this is not popular with conservatives because Fox News and Newsmax and the rest of them are all, they're all on the same narrative that MSNBC and CNN are on. Is that, Putin evil, he's trying to take Ukraine. Biden's making the insinuation that he's going to go past Ukraine and try and take this into Poland and everywhere else. And I am not seeing it. Okay. And I watched a series of lectures, one of which stood out to me. It was this gentleman, I forget his name, a Chicago professor, did this lecture in 2000, I want to say 14, with the first Ukrainian crisis. And it's I watched the whole hour and a half of it or so. And he breaks down in his mind why NATO was responsible for that crisis. And, that sent me down another path of readings and looking things up. And, and in the end, when I came out of it, I thought to myself, you know what, there's truth to that. There's truth to the case that's being made there. And I kind of lined it up with what's going on now. And, really this whole thing can be avoided if NATO just tells Ukraine, you can't be in. You can't be in. We're not going to have World War III over you getting into NATO. It's just not, it's important, but it's not on that level important. And we're not going to, we can't do it. Hey, Kevin, what's up, brother? So anyway, Putin's looking at this situation. He's going into Ukraine, but you notice he's not killing civilians, despite all of the craziness. I'm not saying no civilians died, okay, but he's not targeting civilians. If you remember that story that all the newscasters got busted on with the 13 soldiers who told this warship to go F itself and all that, and then died valiantly when they ran out of bullets. Not only is that not true, but all 13, there were 80 of them. They all lived, and they were all given medical care and food before being sent back to their families. That's a huge change in narrative right there. And when I hear that kind of stuff, it makes me say, forget the fact that there was a fake narrative. But I'm just saying to myself, all right, so if that's validated, then the reality of the matter is he's not trying to kill civilians. And it makes sense that he's not, because Russia likes Ukraine. Right. There are family members who live, there are people all throughout Russia who have family in Ukraine and vice versa. Almost half the country is pro-Russia. OK, Putin's not trying to go in there and just start slaying people like that. And he's not. When you look at what's actually happening on the ground, forget the videos. I don't believe one video I see now. I'm done with the videos. I'm done. I don't care. You got news stations out there using video game backdrops of missiles coming out, for their stories. I'm done with the newscasts and their videos. The reality of the matter is everything that's been verified is that civilians, while they're up at arms to fight, some of them, all right, mostly in eastern Ukraine, all right, are up at arms to fight, and that's valiant. And I have all the appreciation and prayers for the citizens of Ukraine. I'm not saying anything bad to them. They're caught in this thing, but in the end, if NATO just turns around and says we're not doing this, this is no different than Monroe Doctrine. Okay, this is the same concept in my mind. Okay, and feel free to come at me with something if you don't see it that way. But to me, Putin's looking at this, and I'm not cheering on Putin, and I'm not feeling bad for him. I understand he's not a good guy. I get that. He's on the bad team, right? But in this particular case, what would you do if you were in his shoes? You've got an alliance of enemies that want to take in a country into their organization that is right on your border. Now, there was a similar situation. There was a similar situation to this years ago. You might remember the Cuban Missile Crisis, where Khrushchev wanted to do the same exact thing. He went to Cuba, set up his bases, because they're going to have armaments and stuff. There's going to be NATO presence and NATO forces in Ukraine if this goes through. And Putin's just not going to let that. It's not even a conversation starter for the Russians. So in the end, even though they're your enemy, there are certain things that you have to respect as far, and NATO is not respecting any of that, which is telling me that NATO's okay with this, right? So then it takes us down another road. But I'm using this new software right now, so bear with me. I'm trying to get this video. I want to show you what this parliament member says. I don't know if it didn't sound like it slipped. It sounded like she meant to say it regarding New World Order.
The democratic countries. We knew that we are the shield for the Europe.
For the rest of us that aren't Ukrainians, I think the world, quite frankly, Kira, is surprised by the will of the Ukrainian people to stand up and fight. Are you?
Well, I'm not surprised. We have been fighting Putin for the last 8 years, and we had 3 revolutions in our country when we did not agree with what was going on with the direction of where we're moving in. But right now, it's a critical time because we know that we not only fight for Ukraine, we fight for this new world order for the democratic countries. We knew that we are the shield for the Europe.
All right, so it took me a second to get down there, Kevin. I see your comment there, and yeah, that's just another piece that kind of adds to it. But like I'm looking at this whole scenario and just saying to myself, what makes the most sense to me is that this, because the reset there's absolutely, the Great Reset is no longer conspiracy theory. All right, the World Economic Forum is putting out videos, talking about it openly. They're not even trying. It's not even like they're going, stop it. They're talking about it. They're like, no, we really need, like, they want to like pat you on the head and explain to you why the simpletons just need to understand, right? This is happening. Okay, these people are trying to do this. All right, so how the Great Reset ties in with New World Order, or ties in with Illuminati or cabals, or I'm not even going there. I know the Great Reset is real. Okay, and when I hear Biden talk about the country needs to reset in his freaking speech, all right, and talking about it during COVID, which is where the rest of these World Economic Forum clowns decided that they were gonna. It's the COVID situation that made them want to do it. This is what disturbs me, right? This is where the red flags go off, because and then lastly, there's another piece to this actually that I should talk about too. George Soros is pro-Ukrainian right now. All right, so and like, where that alone, okay, that alone freaks me out. All right, when you got anything George Soros wants to do, I instinctively think is bad. So it's like by nature, I'm like, Soros is doing it, that's bad, right? And in the end, that's exactly, I still stand by that. Okay, I still stand by the notion that if Soros is doing it, it's bad. And I'm trying to. He has a series actually of tweets on the topic, and now with this software, only one of them, only the top one is really legible, but what he's saying is it's important that both the transatlantic alliance, United States, Canada, European Union, United Kingdom, but also the other nations do whatever is in their power to support Ukraine in its time of existential threat. The two below it are of similar ilk. They're kind of calling for the same thing. And I'm kind of looking at it saying, all right, these people, every creepy person in the world is aligned with NATO right now. All right, with the exception of Xi Jinping and Putin. Okay, but it's clear I don't want to say it's clear to me. It's becoming clear to me that this whole NATO, this whole narrative, which I don't believe. Okay, I don't believe the narrative that they're trying to take over the world. They're trying to equate this guy to Adolf Hitler. He's not Adolf Hitler. He's a bad player, but he's not Adolf Hitler. All right, Xi Jinping, now he's Adolf Hitler on steroids. Okay, but Putin's just a bad player. All right, and the fact of the matter, he ain't got a problem kicking someone in the ass. Like Putin don't give a shit like that. If you come across Russia, he's gonna come after you. Okay, and that's exactly what happened in Ukraine. And the president there, yeah, he should be looking out for his back, because in the end, this guy is in danger. And they are going to take him out. And this happened, if you don't know the history, this happened in 2014. Okay, where Putin went in when they started this nonsense with bringing Ukraine into NATO. Georgia, they want to bring into. Well, Putin was like, no, it ain't happening, and they took out the president there, put in a guy who was more favorable. Ukrainians stepped up and threw the guy out. But the fact of the matter is, the Ukrainian people are pawns in this whole thing. That's my take on it. That's my take on it. All right, this whole thing is a stage set that is friggin' is going down. And you're right, Kevin. Trudeau as well. He's in with this clan of coconuts as well. So, but the reality of the matter is, when it comes down to it, Putin's not going to let NATO be on his border. He's never going to do it. It's never going to happen. So the question now becomes, is this so important to NATO that they're willing to start a world war? Because I guarantee you, in the meetings that Putin was having with Xi Jinping prior to making this move in, yes, some of the talks were about not doing anything until the Olympics were over. But I guarantee you, in those conversations, we're saying, if NATO goes in, you go into Taiwan. Why? Why is that significant? Because if Xi Jinping goes into Taiwan, immediately NATO is neutered. Because the United States is going to be involved in NATO in that scenario the same way NATO is usually involved. We're going to send you 2 planes and a couple of crippled guys with a limp and have at it. Because the rest of our forces are going to be heading to Taiwan. Because our obligation is there. All right. And the fact of the matter is, I don't think Putin's afraid of the rest of Europe. So in the end, there's nothing scary about Europe, right? They don't have militaries really. Britain does, but everybody else, they've been living in this welfare euphoria for so long. They haven't spent a penny on military. They've always been, the United States will save us. Well, not this time, not in this scenario. So if you take that and say, all right, well, this new world order, this great reset, they clearly don't like Putin. Okay, they clearly don't like Putin. And this is where you learn that left and right is the same bird, 2 wings on the same bird, right? It doesn't matter what network you go to. They're all telling you Putin's trying to take over the world. They're all lockstep with that narrative because now it's getting real, right? Now it's getting real. They need everybody behind this movement, and everybody's getting there. And I understand I got a lot of flack from conservatives about this crap. But you know what? I'm not backing off of it until I see some facts that show me that. Because the reality is, if he wanted to invade and take over Ukraine, he'd have done it already. He'd have done it. He'd have just decimated the damn place and taken it over. If it was all about just adding it to his territory. But because he's not doing it, and because the narrative is there, so now they're acting like suddenly the Russians forgot how to run an army. Boy, these Russians sure are rusty. I'm watching these. I'm just laughing my ass off. These Russians, man, it's been a long time since they've been in real battles. So, it's pretty, pretty normal for them to be sloppy like this and, and not be able to just penetrate in. It's like, or they're not trying to just ram their way in. No one talked because that doesn't fit with the red. We just got done telling you the missiles are falling and it's chaos. We just got done telling you that there's an all-out assault, and now we're going to tell you that the Russians aren't really going in. They're just kind of hovering the borders, and now they're going to send some tanks in, and they're going to take out the president. So they're going to go in. They're going in, but they're going in to take out leadership in the government. All right. And if that lady is representative of leadership in the government on behalf of the world, I don't really have a problem with that. This lady's out there fighting for New World Order. You know what? I don't want to hear she misspoke. I don't want to hear that. There is no such thing as any government level leader or any leader at that level that doesn't understand what New World Order means. You don't just slip like that. You don't just slip. And yeah, you're right, Kevin. It's with Trump gone, Putin is. I'll put it up here. With Trump gone, Putin's the last president in stronghold fighting the global elites, and that's probably truth to that. Xi Jinping, believe it or not, is actually in that category as well. It's just a bizarre time to be in the world. It's like the good guys. The good guys. There are no good guys. It's like there are no good guys. It's like, what are the bad guys doing to the bad guys? There's no good guys. All the people of all these nations are good. But the governments right now, all of them, for their own reasons, whether it's they're buying into this Great Reset nonsense, or they're friggin', running concentration camps. All of them are a mess. There's no good guys here. And I'm sitting here, as I was going through this thought process, I'm thinking to myself, like, man, that sounds pretty. My brother was just yelling at me. I don't know if he's watching right now. He was just yelling at me, telling me, as I was explaining it to him, he's like, that's not, that's very anti-American. And I'm like, yeah, in a way, I guess. But, clearly I'm not anti-American, right? And in the end, look, this is why, this is why I go so crazy about Article 5. Because it's the only thing you could do. Like, you have to look at something as a citizen. Like, what can you do? We're not going to go, like, we're not going to be, changing things on a global scale, as far as armies and missions and these kinds of scams that go on. We're not doing that unless, because the thing is that the power that we have is that our government is running this show. When it comes to what government is going to, you could say the Rothschilds or whatever, okay, knock it out. But I'm just talking about as governments go, our government is the most important player in this whole piece. And if we take that back, from the inside, right? If we take that back from the inside and cut this, like force them, like constitutionally amend it, that, you cannot do these things, right? You're no longer allowed to be involved in education. You're no longer allowed to spend more money than you take in. You're like Marxism and such can't thrive in that environment. It can't. It requires an all-powerful central government. And yes, unless there's, I see you, Sean, unless there's another revolution. But that's what Article 5 is for, right? And Mason actually wrote this into that. He actually wrote this down and said, I forget the verbatim quote, but the idea in the Madison's notes, if you read through Madison's notes, September 15th, 1787, good year, 1787, you'll see that he wrote in there the purpose of Article 5 being written this way was to not allow an all too powerful government to be left to the chance of violence, right? And his point was, it's not something, you don't want to let this get to revolution. We need to have a legitimate way for people to take their country back, for people to amend the Constitution. You cannot let Congress be involved in that process if the process is going to be restricting the power of Congress. They'll never propose anything, right? It's common sense. That's why it got changed, and with the convention option written in with unanimous consent, because it was clear. Yeah, Diana, absolutely. Legit, peaceful, and safe. That's absolutely right. And that's the point of it. And that's why I fell in love with it so much. And I actually, look, I felt for that runaway convention stuff too. For those that don't know, there's a runaway convention argument that if they pick the delegates, if the state legislatures pick these delegates, that the delegates will do what the founders did, and then they accuse the founders of going rogue in the way that they rewrote the Articles of Confederation. I don't want to get too deep down that rabbit hole right now. I'll tell you, it's not true. The founders were well authorized to do what they did. That case is made in Federalist Paper 40. If you want to read it, it's a good read from Madison. But the bottom line is, it's not true. But I went down that hole too, and I believed it, and I was like, wow. But I kept going, and that's where people fall off, is they hear that and they go, they're gonna rewrite the Constitution. We have gun advocates saying it's no good. But when you look at things like Ukraine, like this kind of stuff happens because we let our government get out of control, and we can fix this. We can fix this by doing that. Look, I got my Article 5 T-shirt on right here, right? So I got Article 5 written right into the flag. I'm all fired up. But in the end, if when it comes to situations like Ukraine, really every single major problem that we have can be addressed this way. Because all it is, when you put it in its simplest terms, it's the adult walking into the room, right? It's these children have been running amok for a century, and it's time for the adult, for the person who actually cares about the outcome, right? We just listened to Biden's State of the Union. What a mess that was. Oh my God. I just put out a video on that. I mean, I was just like, I sitting there just ching. If you saw the video I put out, I just started using the cash register sound and edited all of these ridiculous freaking, let's raise the minimum wage. Let's give free healthcare. Let's give. And it was just like ching, 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 ching. Meanwhile, Xi Jinping is sitting back in China looking at his wallet like, dude, you want to slow down a little? Because he's paying for it all, right? But we can fix that. We can fix that, right? So I don't, look, I don't know what you guys think, right? I don't know if people are. I know I got a lot of flack for the Ukraine position. People saying no, we all have to stand with the Ukrainian people and this and this and this. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not standing against the Ukrainian people. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not against them. We had a drinking game for keywords and phrases. That's funny. So, but yeah, I'm not against those people. I'm just sitting here saying to myself, I don't know what being for them means. Does being for them mean I have to support all of this great reset and all this other stuff, or are the people who are supporting them, do they just not believe that stuff exists? Like, is that how it is? Because in the end, I can't do that, right? I can't do that. Like to me, I'll never, ever, ever. Kevin, you're a nut, dude. So I'll never, ever, ever buy into that kind of stuff. It's just, I'm going to fight this great reset nonsense, till the day that I die. And if they try to pull that crap with me, I'm already looking with my brother, buy some land in Tennessee, or, we're looking at Smoky Mountains or somewhere like that. It's a nice big plot of land that we could build on later. I want to have that as like a fail safe kind of thing. And then we'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's hey, there he is. There's my brother on there. So I just told him, I don't know if you missed it, Bob, that you were yelling at me saying it was un-American. He gave me a little slap on the wrist. But yeah, these people, I mean, look, I hope everyone rethinks this. If you guys have stuff out there that you want to, that you think is going to be helpful to this conversation, then that's the whole point of the think tank, is that we start sharing this information. So share this information, right? If you hear something that I say that you're like, just like those people in Australia did when they heard my Russian tank thing, they all went on fire and started screaming Ukrainian tank. That's good, right? It got me to read more. It got me to look into it more, and I got more fired up about it. And it kind of led me down the path to this, right? So it kind of led me down the path to this, because I was like, all right, well, if that's fake, then what else is fake? And then all of a sudden, Rising. If you watch Kim Iverson on Rising, she did a whole piece on all the stories that were fake, and I'm sitting here going, they're really, not only are they going crazy with the propaganda, but they're getting caught like crazy. Like they're not very good at it. And I don't know what it's a huge money laundering scheme. Yeah, I think it's bigger than that. I think the Ukraine situation is bigger than that. I mean, right now, where I stand on this, for anybody who jumped on late, where I stand on this is that this is the whole Great Reset bunch. And for whatever reason, and I've always felt that Putin and Xi Jinping, like I never saw how those two fit in to this globalist scheme, because I'm like, there's no way either one of them is signing on to anything that doesn't involve them being the ultimate all supreme leader. And and I don't think the New World Order people or Great Reset people, if they're the same, I don't know, but certainly the Great Reset people are real, and these World Economic Forum people. And I don't think they want any part of China. I think they know that guy is a complete psycho. Like Putin's a bad player, but Xi Jinping is like Stalin and Hitler wrapped in one. What he's doing to the Uyghurs and stuff down there and killing, it's just unbelievable. Re-education camps and slaughters. That guy's next level. I don't think these people want any part of him. But Putin, they'll go after Putin. They'll go after Putin. That's a big chunk of land, and they probably think that they got an edge, and we'll see what happens there. But the whole thing is just shady. And I listened to that woman. If you guys missed it, just rewind the video later on. That MP, she's a parliament member, who talked about at the end of her what she was saying to the guy on Fox News. She turned around and said, we're not just fighting for the people of Ukraine, we're fighting for the New World Order. We're the cornerstone of the euro or whatever. I'm like, the hell's that mean? Like, and it's just creepy. It's a creepy world we live in right now. And like, you know, the only way we can really trust information we get is if we share information ourselves and be willing to accept the fact that we may be wrong from time to time, because there is an absolute bombardment on all sides of BS news. And you know, and it's intentional to make sure the waters stay muddy and that people don't believe in anything. That's the whole goal behind that, is they want people to not trust anything. And we got to like sift through and get through that and be able to get the information we can get out. All right, guys. So I appreciate everybody that jumped on. I just wanted to get that off my chest. I also wanted to do another test with this software live. It's been an interesting run back and forth with this software, but it looks like we've got it going. If anybody new is on here and you have not subscribed to the channel yet and followed us on Facebook, by all means, please do. We are on Rumble as well, although the live broadcasts will not be on Rumble because I am not paying them for the amount of viewers that we get on Rumble, so it's not worth it. But we do upload everything to Rumble after the fact, but the live videos will be exclusive to Facebook and YouTube. Normally the pecking order is YouTube first. We'll share that video to Facebook, then we'll upload directly to everywhere else. So, all right, I hope you guys saw the intro. That's my favorite intro in the world. It sums up exactly how I feel about everything, almost always. So check it out if you haven't seen it. Until then, I'm out.